What if I told you there was a whiskey that had an age statement that was nearly 50% ABV, came from one of the most highly regarded blenders and bottlers in the world, and cost you only 30 of your British pounds? You'd say, Tom, I don't think that's real. Oh, but it is. Hello and welcome back to the channel, and yes, today I'm taking a look at this. It is from the Thompson brothers, Thompson Bros, out of Dornoch Distillery in the Scottish Highlands, up there on the East Coast. Yep, East Coast. And this is a bit of an oddity, I think. All of those things I said in the introduction, age statement, the ABV, who makes it, and the value, any one of those things on its own is available. You can definitely get an age statement. This is only 8 years, incidentally, but that doesn't really matter at this point. You can definitely get an 8-year or even a 10-year for 30 quid somewhere. You can get a big name, you can get a higher ABV, and you can get the value. But can you get all of those in the same package? I'm not so sure. So what is it? It is called Thompson Bros SRV5, aged for over 8 years. 8 is the absolute minimum. The only negative is that it is a blend. But remember, brands out there like Johnny Walker have been charging exorbitant prices for blends for years. And a blend does not mean it's bad. It's just, well, to be honest, exactly what these guys do. They are a finisher, a bottler, a blender, and they do it so incredibly well. A few weeks ago I reviewed a grain whiskey from them that was 29 years old, I want to say, and again, that was incredible value, but more importantly, it was an incredible drink. It was fantastic, and I've heard from many people that this, the SRV5 Thompson Bros, effectively regular, everyday, always available bottle, is just that. The cheapest I could find this was £31.74, so I'll be honest, in my mind, I'm not arguing over £1.74. It's a 30 quid bottle, give or take, and the most you'll pay for it is 35. So yeah, really not bad value at all, provided it is as good as everyone says. And we need to find out if that really is the case. Having a quick look at the bottle then, as you can see, it has got their distinct style. It's quite rustic. Reminds me a bit of Quentin Blake's illustrations. Anyone of a similar age to me, or probably a bit older in fact, used to the Roald Dahl books when they were a kid. That was that was who did the illustrations, and I don't know, yeah, it's just got that vibe about it. But it looks like a very nice thing. The back label is the same, I think, on all their bottles, which just goes on to say that it's about them basically being out of Dornoch Distillery. So they do distill their own stuff, but they are primarily, at least as Thompson Bros, a bottler and blender. So let's get it open and get a dram poured. Now, this bottle I picked up in Scotland, but not at their shop. They do have a shop up in Dornoch. I have been to it, which is where I got that other bottle from. It's quite a trek, I'm not going to lie. If you do the NC 500, that little travel route that's quite popular at the minute, it is on or not far from the main route there, so worth visiting if you are going to do it. I, though, got this at the Highland Liquor Company in Fort William, and they are a fantastic just independent bottle shop. So all sorts of whiskey, beer, wine, mead. We've got some mead from there. Most of their stuff is Scottish where it can be, so beer and whiskey, gin as well, obviously wine, and the mead was Welsh, incidentally. Yeah, the wine from all over the shop. As you can imagine, Scotland not renowned for their grape vintages, but their grain vintages a very different matter. And I'm sure I showed this last time, but I just really like their top caps on the cork. They've got the etching on the top there and on the side as well, if that will come across. It's yeah, just a very nice looking thing. And they make the best cork pops. Now, Thompson Bros are no-nonsense whiskey people, and as a result, there is no chill filtration, there is no colouring added, and as a result, it is pretty pale. That is what single malt or blended malts. This is a blended malt, so this is blends of single malts in effect. It's still all malted barley whiskey in there. That is what it looks like at 8 years, provided it's not been put in a port cask or something. They don't say whose whiskey goes into this and what the finishing is, but yeah, it's fairly safe to say there's not going to be much port, sherry, wine, even bourbon cask influence in there, because it is pretty pasted. There might be a little bit, but yeah, overall, definitely not the majority. It does look pale. I'm trying to work out what colour it is because it's taking on the colour of absolutely anything that's either behind me or behind it as I move it around the room. But yeah, it's it's got like a, I don't know, it looks like liquid platinum is the best I can come up with. It really doesn't look like much else. Maybe a strong grape juice, maybe a decent vintage white wine perhaps. But anyway, we digress. Onto the aromas. I don't know how they do it, but there is a note in some Scotch whisky. My instinct says it's more Speyside driven. That just... Now you're going to have to bear with me if you've watched a few of my whisky reviews, because I've banged on a few times about how a lot of things smell like honey, but it's a bit out of get out of jail free because it's just floral and sweet. But this in particular smells like what I want honey to smell like. Like, I like honey, but it's a bit much. Sometimes it's a bit strong. This is just a little bit reserved, a little bit chilled back, a little bit honey cut with cucumber is actually the way it's going. It's like, it's nice, it's fruity, it's super sweet, but also refreshing. Just, yeah, that freshness, that pithy cleansing nature that you get from a cucumber, basically. Which, if we're honest, has almost no taste whatsoever. So it feels like a terrible analogy, but if you get your hooter in here, you'll understand what I'm talking about. Other than that, though, I'm not sure if it's just in my head because of what I said about the colour of it, but it's definitely got that kind of white grape, refreshing, fruity nature as well. Like, I'll be honest, everything in here is kind of going that way. Baseline, it's big, malty sweetness with a layer of floral on top. That gets you that base honey thing. And then after that, it's all fruity refreshment to try and dial that down and make something super balanced and almost, yeah, refreshing. I would imagine this as a mixer with club soda, something like that. Not club soda, that's the wrong one. Just soda water would be an insanely refreshing drink on a hot summer's day. We're heading into October now in the UK, so probably not the time of year, but it is sunny outside for probably one of the last days of the year. And yeah, I'm looking forward to this, so let's get into it. Cheers. That is masking its flavour in its aroma massively. It does have all of those notes, but it's depthy, it's layered, it's not a one-trick pony, it's really quite moreish. Now, the actual ABV on this is 48.5, so just coming up towards that 50 mark, and you can tell it's definitely not your flat 40% supermarket budget option. But it's not thick. But it does coat your tongue in this beautiful, just soft, kind of just captivating way that leads you to go back for another. It's not big. It doesn't necessarily taste 48.5%. Maybe not as low as 40, but definitely somewhere in the middle between the two. And, well, it's a bit of a curious body on it. It's not as thick as I was expecting, but it feels like it does more than it needs to at the same time. Flavour wise though, tip of the tongue, you get that grassy meadow sweetness, again down in that honey section, but it is beautifully fresh, beautifully balanced. You can taste everything, but it's not blowing your palate out right away. Then over the mid palate, some of the floral nature peels back and you are left with the grain. You can really taste that sweet malt in here. It's fantastic, it's beautiful. You don't get it in that many whiskies, if I'm honest. At least I don't get it in that many whiskies. A lot of people mention it all the time, but for me, most whiskies taste like other things and their influences, not so much the raw product. This though, you absolutely do get it on the back of the tongue. Things start to switch up. It is a nice big fresh thing until you just start to get a little elbow in the ribs of something smoky, something depthy, something very, very lightly peated. This is lightly peated. If you don't like peat whiskey, don't worry. It's not obtuse with it. It's just a peppering, a heat. It comes in at the same time as the booze comes in to get you, and you end up with this big crescendo that on your first sip really makes you go, oh wow, really was not expecting it. With a sip or two, it becomes just an absolute event. It lingers and then flips into that aftertaste as you swallow it. The heat goes up. I'm probably getting a little bit more red in the face now, and it just helps, I guess, balance it, because without that it would have been a very, very easy to drink, too easy to drink, super sweet, refreshing dram, which isn't really, well, what Scotch is all about. Let's be honest, it is about tasting the environment, tasting the methods and the trickeries of the distilling process. And yeah, that fiery punch at the end is very nice because it doesn't hang around for too long either. You get to appreciate it for 30-40 seconds, put your glass down, and I'm left with a distinct drying on the tongue, a little bit of that nice sweet honey floral thing, and the peat is just a peppering. It is a seasoning really at the end, and as a result, that is a fantastic kind of daily sipper. The price is absolutely on point, the quality is there, and it has depth, it has layers, it has complexity, but not too much. Not so much that you would go, oh, I really want to save this because I need to be in the right frame of mind to appreciate it. I think you could easily just mindlessly watch a bit of TV, read a book, whatever, while sipping this and not worry about it, mainly because it's 30 quid a bottle, of course, and you can always go and get more. But the other reason is that it's not so overwhelmingly complex that it really proves an issue. You can appreciate it if you want to, and if you don't, well, it's just a very, very nice experience. And every time I take a sip, that bit at the end just catches me off guard and makes you kind of, remember you're alive, really, is what it does. This is fantastic. It's not quite what I was expecting. I don't know what I was expecting. When we started off, I was a little bit worried. I was thinking, this is going to be all too easy. It's too soft. It's too just, I don't know, mass market almost. And I was so wrong. They absolutely pulled it out of the bag. They are masters of their craft, Thompson Brothers. This is not sponsored. I just really, really rate them. And this is another absolute zinger. So if in that last video where I reviewed that, let me grab the bottle. Here it is. It was actually 28 years old, single grain Scotch whiskey. It was a grain whiskey and I absolutely raved about it. That was the label, if you want a quick memory refresher. That was superb. Very rare now. I probably shouldn't have opened it and probably should have sold it, if I'm being totally honest. But this is not a whiskey flipping channel. It's a flipping whiskey channel. So yeah, bad pun. But anyway, if you liked what I said about this and thought that this was interesting, the flavours aren't the same, but the quality is absolutely there. And this at only 30 quid, well, yes, go pick one up because it is absolutely stupendous. And to be honest, that is really all I've got to say about it. So as always, thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like it. If you haven't already, subscribe if you will be so kind, and I'll catch you next time. Cheers.